Administrator Giles, I want to go to another issue, which is, I talked about the frustration of the Animas River example. I think that there's a sense, certainly in my state, of a do as I say, not as I do approach to some of the EPA enforcement. And I've raised this issue a number of times in this committee, but you'd mentioned earlier a statement by a senior EPA administrator that you said you immediately disavowed. On the eve of the EPA versus Michigan case, the EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy, was asked if she thought that the EPA was going to win that case in front of the Supreme Court. She said she was confident that the EPA would. And then she said, quote, "But even if we don't win, it was 3 years ago. Most of them," meaning all the companies and private sector businesses, "are already in compliance. Investments have been made and will catch up. We're still going to get at the toxic pollutions from these facilities," unquote. Do you see a problem with that statement? And do you disavow that statement? I mean, I find that statement to be remarkable because, in my view, it ignores the rule of law. It's essentially saying, hey, heads we win, tails we win, it doesn't matter. Do you understand why a statement like that from the head of the EPA administrator brings so much frustration to the average American who's trying to comply with the law, the average small business? Do you disavow that statement from the EPA administrator? And do you understand why, as you probably know, that statement's been quoted all over the country? People are shocked when they heard her say that. Do you understand why people are shocked? And first of all, do you disavow that statement by your boss?
Well, Senator, are you referring to the mercury and air toxic standard?
I'm referring to the quote that the administrator made on the eve of the EPA versus Michigan Supreme Court decision, which the EPA lost, by the way.
Well, from an enforcement perspective, what I can tell you is when rules become final, companies do make progress towards complying with them. And if rules are overturned many years later, many companies have already gone a long distance towards compliance.
Right, but it seems to me that she has that as part of EPA's strategy. Kind of like, it doesn't matter whether we were right or wrong on the rule because the companies had to comply. Do you understand why that makes people frustrated? You want me to read the quote again?
No, Senator. I understand what you're saying, your frustration.
No, it's not mine. I would say there's probably millions of Americans who are frustrated with that approach to the law and regulations by the EPA.
Well, it certainly is the case that sometimes it takes quite a while for judicial cases to come to conclusion. And meanwhile, companies do comply with the law, has been my experience.
But you don't understand why a statement from the head of the EPA administrator, just like I read, would make a lot of Americans very frustrated with how federal agencies, particularly yours, operates? You don't get that?
I think the administrator is expressing her view and confidence about the outcome of that litigation.
No, actually, she wasn't. I mean, I'm fine with her saying that she thinks they're going to win. She has good lawyers. That's fine. That's actually a strong statement from the EPA administrator. That's expected. That part of her statement's fine. It's the part of her statement that says, but even if we don't win, it was 3 years ago, most of them are already in compliance, and investments have been made, we'll catch up. That's really, even if we win, even if we lose, we win. Like, there's no way to lose.
Senator, I think it's a statement of fact that many companies had made investments to comply with the regulation.
Oh, I know it's a statement of fact, but I'm just asking you, do you understand why that frustrates people? Can you see it? Can you sympathize with the small business person who fought that, thought it was illegal, and then the Supreme Court came out and said it was illegal, and then the head of the EPA says, hey, too bad. It was illegal, but you already had to pay for it. Good luck. You see how that makes people frustrated?
I'm getting pretty far out of my zone in enforcement and
oh, that's enforcement, though. That has a lot to do with enforcement. So you don't see how that frustrates people? No sympathy there?
It's not a matter of not sympathy. I think it's a statement of fact, which is a correct statement.